You're listening to All About Us Radio. We're live streaming 24/7, playing old school versus new school. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at AAU Media, and visit our website www.aaumedia.com. Call us at 1-833-369-1444, extension 1, and leave us an inspirational message or request. You're listening to All About Us Radio.
Hello, and welcome to All About Us Radio, where we're changing you, changing us, and changing the world. And welcome again to my podcast that we have the third Thursday of every month. And today I have three dynamic women who are going to share their time with us. So the topic for today is women surviving young adulthood, ages 23 to 34. So first, I want to introduce, and I'm going to do it in alphabetical order, Tamara Bosajor. I'm going to introduce her in.
Hi, everybody.
Tamara is a beautiful young lady. She has gotten her degree, her undergraduate degree from Penn State, and that undergraduate degree was a Bachelor's of Science in Health Policies Administration. Tamara is currently getting a master's in public health at SUNY Downstate University. So Tamara, welcome tonight to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Jones.
You're welcome. Next, I want to introduce Serena Jones. And Serena Jones received her undergraduate degree at NYU Tandon School of Engineering. She graduated with an undergraduate degree in biomolecular engineering and also obtained a master's degree at Johns Hopkins in individualized genomics and health policies and regulations under the FDA. And last but definitely not least is Diana Lee. And Diana received her undergraduate degree in psychology from Holy Cross and plans to go on to obtain a PhD. So I would like to welcome you ladies to All About Us Radio. And our topic tonight, we're going to touch on a lot of interesting questions that, our young people face and are having challenges with. So I just want to put out there the first question. What challenges do you feel as a Black female you face today's society? I'll start with Diana.
Okay. So right now, given my current situation, I take care of my grandparents and my mom. I'm a full-time caretaker, and I took on that role after I graduated from college in 2020. And the biggest issue I face is sometimes getting adults who are older than me to respect me. Like, I know that I'm an adult, but sometimes when I'm talking to doctors or social workers, people think they see me and I look really young in person, and they see me and sometimes I get the vibe that they don't think that they have to communicate with me when it comes to my grandparents' bills or their healthcare, but they do. And one of the biggest challenges that I had to overcome was coming across people who think that just because I'm young and also a woman and Black, that they don't have to show me the same amount of respect or take the same amount of time with me and care with me and my family members as they would some other people who do not share the same identities as myself.
Okay. And Tamara, how about challenges you have faced as a Black woman?
I would say it happens more at work. So, I'm considered a support service worker at my job. So therefore, sometimes I feel like my voice isn't heard when I do want to voice my opinion, or if I want to talk about certain things. I feel like, just like what Diana was saying, that it's a respect thing. That maybe I don't recognize what I'm talking about, or that I don't understand, or I'm not informed. So I feel like I face those challenges sometimes because of my job position.
Okay. And Serena, how about some challenges you face as a Black female?
I'm gonna have to go with Tamara on this one. I think the biggest challenges I face is definitely at work. Some of the clientele that I work with, it's the challenges and the expectations, and sometimes the lack of respect that I get from the clientele. As a Black woman, can be challenging, and it's hard because sometimes I feel like they're not understanding, or they have certain expectations for me, or lesser expectations because I'm a Black woman, and trying to get across that my competencies to them can be a challenge.
Understood. How does it make you guys feel? Diana?
Annoyed, mostly annoyed. It's like, why do I have to prove myself any more than another person who it doesn't look like me does? Like, it's just it gets very frustrating because I'm gonna be in this body for my entire life until I transition. So I sometimes I think to the future, like, well, hopefully in the future it will be less frustrating, like as generations go on, and other girls don't have to feel the same sense of like stress from having to prove that, like what Serena said, your competencies.
Understood. And how about you, Tamara? How do you feel?
So it's very frustrating because I do find myself trying to prove my point a lot. A lot of times, I even go as far as saying, like, I'm a graduate sometimes, just so that I can get my point across, which is terrible because if you treat one person a certain way, you should treat all. There should be respect across the board.
Understood. And Serena?
I would say exhausting, like, having to repeat yourself multiple times and explain to people, like, this is what it is, and like, but are you sure? And I'm like, well, yes, I'm absolutely sure. And then similar to Tamara, sometimes have to repeat yourself. Oh yeah, but I'm a college graduate. I mean, in my case, like I have my master's. Like I know what I'm talking about, and so it can be very exhausting to have to fight and prove yourself and repeat yourself over multiple times to people when you're talking to them, especially when they think lesser of you because you're Black.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the challenges that people don't see when they're talking to Black people and Black women of color. First, being a woman makes it even more challenging. There's that less respect that's given to women than even given to Black men. So again, it becomes a challenge of always feeling like you may have to prove yourself. So it brings me to my next question on, do you think it affects your opportunities for advancement? I'm going to start from the top and then come down. So Serena, we're going to start with you. Do you think being a Black woman, you're a college graduate, you have a graduate degree, and do you think it affects your opportunities for advancement as compared to some of your counterparts, i.e., uh, the Caucasian race?
It's a good question. I would say at the moment, probably not, only because I had good opportunities for advancements. So I would say at the moment, no.
Okay. And Tamara, how about you?
For me, yes. As you know, I've been within the health system for a while, and I have been applying to many jobs, and I feel like I have had difficulties moving around. I have.
Okay. And Diana, how about you?
At this present moment, I would say I have to say that I'm okay. But I can definitely foresee it possibly being an issue simply because when you are a black person trying to move up in the ranks, especially in education, especially in STEM, I plan on getting my PhD in neurology. Unfortunately, being anything other than Caucasian, sometimes you're not given a blank slate. Like it's like people assume things about you, maybe they be good or bad. For example, some a lot of times I've been told in the past that I speak well on interviews,
Mhm.
and it's like, well, now I know for a fact that the interviewer expected me to be some completely other way, and it's like, well, when you're interviewing someone, the point is to get to know them. So why is it that when I'm being interviewed, my interviewer is coming with a whole bunch of other biases potentially just because of how I look? So right now I'm okay, but it could be an issue in the future. I hope it's not.
So indirectly, you picked a important topic because indirectly, that's a little bit of a microaggression, and um, sometimes that affects us in different ways. So, do you think situations like that you brought up, Diana, may cause or may have a stressor on how it makes you feel?
I find it stressful. So I try to ignore it as best I can, but at the end of the day, I am a human being with feelings. So if I think about it too much, I definitely get kind of I'll say down about it because it's just one of those things about life. But like life is hard enough. Why add anything to anyone's life to make it more difficult than it needs to be, especially things that they had no control over at birth and do not at all affect their intellect or ability to work or do a certain job. So yeah, it's stressful sometimes to think about.
And Tamara, how about you? Do you find that these situations that you described earlier are added stress and may affect how you see yourself or the standards that you hold for yourself?
Yes, definitely. I feel like those things have caused me to lack confidence. Um, uh, Even like trying to, I would say, advance. I would feel like I'm not good enough, or maybe they won't hire me, because say I'm looking for a job or um, something of the sort, and I always feel like, you know, they're not going to call me, they're not going to hire me because of those factors, or they expect, also with my name too, it's like, it automatically displays that I'm a black woman. So sometimes I feel like those things get overlooked too, because it's been a hard journey for me as a black woman anyway. So but now I do plan on being more confident, um, and presenting myself with intention so that I can move forward.
Great, great. And how about you, Serena? Do you
Yeah,
feel
I
that
think
certain stresses have played a factor?
yeah, I think going off of what Diana was saying about articulation as a black woman, I've gotten that comment a lot. But also like in my undergraduate studies, I've gotten like, "Oh, wow, I'm surprised you got into the school. Like you're so smart." And I'm like, "Did you not think I wasn't smart?" Or like, "Oh, did you get in because you're just like another a minority student for affirmative action?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I had great grades in high school." So I get those kind of microaggressions as well, especially when I in STEM and when you go higher up into STEM where there's fewer black individuals. Those types of microaggressions can make me, and I know other people who are high up in STEM feel like we're not as smart and and you start doubting yourself about your competencies in the science fields where black individuals comes far in between. And those are the ones that it really definitely affect me, and I know other people in STEM as well.
One of the reasons why I picked to bring a young audience on is because one of the things that all three of you said is sometimes adults don't hear your voice. And I wanted to make sure that I got the message out to everyone that your voices needed to be heard. Because again, if we don't think about our future and we don't think about our young people, we can't see the growth that we need and the changes that we need to happen in our society. So, one of the things that all three of you brought up indirectly is how it made you feel. And we know that stress can play a factor on our overall health. At one point, somebody said they feel down. Somebody said they have makes them feel a little bit of lack of confidence. And so let's talk about that for a little bit. Because again, how do we get rid of these stressors? How do we build our self-esteem up? How do we continue to get better growth so that people can see the true you and the need for not having to ever explain yourself, for them to just see you as a person? So I'm going to start from the top down. So Serena, what are some of the things that you think, let's talk about, do you think that stress can have an effect on your health, your mental
Oh,
health, your
absolutely.
overall health?
Stress can absolutely have an effect on your overall physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. It's something that I've talked about a lot with friends, and I've written about in school when I was taking an undergrad, when I was taking medical ethics. I remember writing a paper in medical ethics about stress and the way it affects health, specifically your cardiovascular health. And so I definitely know for sure that stress does have an impact on one's health. And the ways to mitigate that, I think, for me at least, one of the most important things that I've done is to surround myself around people who are like-minded and people that are supportive individuals. And I think that is very helpful because one, they allow you to vent about when you're having an issue, and two, those people are not going to drag you down. I ended up watching this video on TikTok, not TikTok, Instagram, just the other day, and I remember it was saying like something to the extent of like, be careful who you let on your boat, because if that person does not will want doesn't go- if that person can't captain your boat, they will sink it for you. And so it's a
Mhm.
very true statement, because there are people that will walk into your life that will come in like a tornado and want to destroy your entire life. And you got to
Mhm.
be wary of those individuals, because they will do that. That is their entire goal of your life, is to cause mayhem in your life. And so you got to watch out for those people. So in my opinion, I think the best way is to surround yourself around like-minded and individuals that will lift you up and not try to drag you down.
Mhm.
Great. And how about you, Tamara?
I completely agree with what Serena said. I actually had an experience like that of my own, where I feel like I'm overly nice, and I just let anybody into my life who I feel like, oh, this person is nice, or they come off nice, but they're not goal oriented, or they're not trying to better themselves. And like Serena said, they will try to bring you down, and you won't recognize it at first, but as you go along, you slowly see like, oh my goodness, peace isn't there. Your mental health is affected. It happened to my mental health was affected so bad that I actually was diagnosed with hypertension, because I'm trying to, please everyone around me, making sure that everybody's good. And then my ship is sinking. So now, going forward, I always make sure, like when I introduce myself to people, or even if I'm getting to know someone, that it is a like-minded person and that we are on the same wavelength, that I'm not spending time trying to translate what I want to do so that the other person can understand it, so that we're on the same wavelength at all times. So yes.
Okay. And how about you, Diana?
On the stress portion of the question, yes, I
Yeah.
totally agree. Stress will take everything from you, and stress will kill you. Like I think
Mhm.
that is something that we really, as a community of Black women, because so many of us talk about how we're always trying to please other people and we put ourselves last. Like we have to have an understanding that stress will take us from this earth
Mhm.
if we do not manage our own, happiness and put ourselves first when it comes to our health and our well-being, because apparently nobody else will. So, and then it comes down to community, and like everyone else said, surrounding yourself with people who are good for you, and that you can also be good back. Because I think it's really powerful when you can also be there for somebody else, um, out of the kindness of your own heart. That makes me feel really good. But keeping a nice, positive, strong good head on their shoulders community around yourself. Surround yourself with it. Surround yourself with love, if you can, if that's a possibility for you. I think that's
Okay.
how I try
So
to.
now I'm gonna.
Go ahead. I'm glitching. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm glitching. I'm
That's
glitching a little bit
okay.
too, but we're still going good.
So you're going well. So one of the topics that I know has been a challenge for Black educated women and just women in general is difficulty around dating. So I'm going to go to that dating session because again, when we talk about dating for African American women, Black women, I know some of the challenges are it's sometimes difficult to find a good Black man with respect to dating. So I just want to talk about that, talk about would you date outside your race and what makes it so challenging for you as a female with dating. I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way to the top. So, Diana.
Okay. What are some of the challenges? I think in general right now it's a really strange time to be alive. And it's a really strange, stressful time to be a young person trying to find a life partner in a time where there's so much uncertainty in everyone's lives. And I think that really has trickled down into how people communicate with one another or like the lack of communication. I hear hearing so many horror stories from my friends as well, just people not just ghosting anymore. That's the norm. But now it's just like people just being weird. And I don't know how to put it any other way than people being weird. I'm not even trying to be funny, but would I date outside my race? Yes, I would. I feel as though if someone were to come into my life and have the right type of love for me, I don't think I should block that blessing. Um, when it comes to dating Black men, I have dated Black men. I don't think there's a particular like anything harder when I'm dating a Black man than when I'm dating a non-Black man. But I think sometimes it's given the area I live in, which is Long Island, it's sometimes harder to find Black men who have my similar goals to me, just because there's less Black people here in general. Like I'm not saying that Black men are less ambitious, but I'm struggling to sometimes find one who's mentally and emotionally mature enough and on my level sometimes.
Understood. And I see we got a message within our chat as well where somebody typed in it's very stressful for the dating scene. And Tamara, how about you?
Well, we will be here all day. No, it's very stressful for me. And I'm an older woman, so I do think about this a lot. When I was in my 20s, I didn't think about it so much because I was really worried about getting my things in order. But now that I'm an older woman and I am dating, I am very stressed. Okay, I am open to dating outside of my race because I have been dating Black men and they are not giving me what I want. I feel like, they tell me that my standards are too high. They tell me that I work too much. They try to belittle me. They tell me that I'm bougie. And I don't think that my standards are higher at all. I just feel like, they want me to accept the bare minimum. And I feel like that's not what I want for my life. And that's not what I want out of a life partner. So therefore, it is very challenging for me to date. So moving forward, now I just date with intention. Like I don't date just to have fun. I kind of lay out what I want, how I want to be loved. Well, not so fast, like in the beginning, but I do I do talk about these things, and I feel like it makes men run. When I display, when I tell them what I want, how I want it, they run, or they say that, I'm high maintenance, mentally, emotionally, it's too much. So I just feel like as a woman, I shouldn't, dumb myself down to be with somebody. I should, if I'm dating someone, they should rise up to meet me. I shouldn't lower myself to make you feel more adequate in order for our relationship to work.
And so that's what this whole show is about, right?
Mhm.
Remembering we are here to empower women, right?
Right.
So the whole overall topic and our goal for, my particular segment of this podcast is empowering women, not
Mhm.
bringing yourself down, making
Correct.
sure you're the best person that you can be,
Right.
right?
Right. I date with intention, like I said, and I put my best foot forward. And I also do follow, like, a lot of, I watch a lot of woman empowerment videos on YouTube. It teaches me how to present myself. And I feel like now that I have been doing that, because I wasn't doing that in the past, it's actually harder for me to date now that I have been, dating with intention, or, setting boundaries. It's very hard for me to find a partner that is on my level, not on my level per se, but who's goal oriented, who wants a family, who's not going to fold when things do get rough. It's hard.
Understood. And Serena, how about you?
As an individual who's currently dating someone outside of your race, I definitely agree with a lot of the things that you mentioned. It is very stressful just to dating in current time, especially post pandemic. But one of the biggest things that I had set on my criteria list is that the person has to be educated. And I've gone on dates with other men who every time I tell them like, oh, I went to NYU, I studied engineering, or I went to Johns Hopkins and I studied genetics, they're just quiver in their pants and then they kind of dip and ghost me. So so my biggest thing is that I had to date someone who is definitely goal oriented and educated, because I'm not going to settle for anything less than that. That's the really big one for me.
Okay. Well, I'm going to pray that this podcast of empowerment will help to build those self-esteems and keep positive, ladies. I know that you guys will have that perfect match because you guys are all goal oriented and focused. So another question is, why do you think some Black men prefer to date white women over Black women? I'm going to start with Serena first and work my way down.
I'm going to need a little more time to think about that question. So come back to me.
Okay. Tamara?
Only one thing I can think about is that they're probably not as assertive as Black women. That's what I want to say about that, because I don't know too much about it, but I do know from speaking to people and hearing that Black women do come off as aggressive and assertive. So I feel like men don't want to deal with anything challenging, so they just go to that direction, And also there's this big thing with, like, a woman being submissive towards a man. So I've heard, I don't know, that white women are very submissive. So therefore, Black men would want to date white women.
Okay. Diana?
I partially agree with what Samara said. I think that is definitely one of the reasons that I've also heard. I don't know, but I have heard. But I also think sometimes it's multifaceted. Part of it is definitely, um, you know, the European aesthetic, the Caucasian aesthetic being the one that's praised in the United States. So when you see what the standard of beauty is, and it is not what the women of your race look like, you're going to, as a man, you're gonna, try to go at you're going to try and go get the quote unquote trophy, right? Like I've heard in college, like there were just Black men on campus who were straight up said white women are success. And if you want to be successful, you need to date a white woman, straight up. And it's just, it seems really like cut and dry for them. It's just like, this is just what it is. So therefore I have to go do that. And a lot of men date to impress their friends. So if the standard of beauty is still white, they're just going to, gravitate towards, a white partner. And I think some people, it happens, or people they just fall in love. And it just so happens to be with the person outside of their race. I do believe, like, relationships happen organically like that. But And also sometimes if you grow up in a predominantly, there are studies that show that who you are around, what ethnicity or race at the age you're going through puberty, and your sense of like your sexual self is starting to develop, that is who you will be attracted to later on in life, or it can contribute to that. So if you grow up in a predominantly white area and your hormones are raging at what, like 13, 14, and everyone around you is a certain race, you're probably going to psychologically you're going to be attracted more so to that race, because that's what your brain and your body knew at that time. So
All right. And Serena, any thoughts?
Here's some interesting points that I didn't think of. Yeah. um, I think if anything, I'm gonna add. Man, I was gonna add something, but now I forgot. I think you guys honestly hit it on the head. I don't think there's anything else I can add to that. I really don't. Yeah.
So I know sometimes when talking to some of my friends and my colleagues and even adults, they feel like the pool is so small. Do you feel, how does it make you feel when you know the pool is small, the catchment pool for men of color that may have a positive head on their shoulder, focus, a good job? How does it make you feel when you're now not part of that catchment pool?
What do you mean, Dr. Jones?
Gotta
What
go
I
fish
mean
somewhere
is,
else.
repeat.
I said, gotta go fish somewhere else.
Okay, so which means dating outside of that of your race. And but do you feel offended by seeing some of those men with white women or white women with black men? How does that make you feel?
I'm not offended when I see that, because at the end of the day, that's not my life. And if it was meant for me, it would have like happened that way. If the question is, how do I feel when I see it? I don't ever have an issue with someone dating outside of their race. I have an issue with sometimes the disrespect that is partnered with it, with the mindset that people have going into dating outside their race. For example, I've heard a lot of, the negative stereotypes about Black women. We're loud, we're annoying, we're too aggressive, we're too assertive, we ask for too much. And then I have an issue when Black men then spread that to their partners that are not Black women, and use that as a title way to be like, yeah, this is why I went for you, or yeah, this is why I avoid these types of women. That's when I have an issue. But I truly, I don't really care if someone dates outside their race.
I think that's an important thing. I think as long as you find a compatible partner that respects you for you and you respect them for them, and that you guys can grow together, that's the most important thing. So don't narrow your choices, open your mind and open your hearts, because that's what makes for a good relationship. And it also makes for improved health. It's a less stressful situation. You know, I remember growing up, or people saying to me when I was, going through my training and my residency, that, wow, I can't believe that you have a Black husband. It's so rare. And it wasn't rare, but any relationship takes work. Sometimes it's harder than your full-time job, but you always have to remain focused, and it's important to have growth. There is a message that came across the chat. It says, or how about when they date Latino women who have the same personality traits? That's when I start to think that it's not about our attitude, but it's about how the woman looks.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
I agree, because that's why also everybody is so into, the plastic surgery and altering their bodies because it's, I mean, of course you're doing it for self, but also it's eye pleasing. So therefore, people alter themselves and they want to attract men. They do. So,
But it's interesting because I just remember reading an article on Reddit about this similar topic about things that women do, for, cosmetic things that women do, and do men find that attractive?
mhm,
And reading the comments, which was mostly male comments, they were talking about like fake nails that they don't find attractive. They don't find unnatural hair color attractive. A lot of
mhm,
them don't find plastic surgery or lip filler and things that what general women do, the average woman does, that on a daily basis they don't find those things attractive. So I find that this is an interesting comment about aesthetic and like and attitudes, because that is one of the number one things, like as we've mentioned multiple times, that black men say they date outside the race, is that they don't like black women's attitude, but then they go and date other people with similar attitudes just for the
mhm,
looks.
mhm, mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. So again, I think talk shows like this and making sure that we empower our Black and Latino women to know that once we are who we are and we have the strength and growth, it makes a difference, right? We don't have to please anybody else but ourselves. And that makes you stronger. And again, like Diana, Serena, and Tamara said, once you love self, self is going to allow the sunshine and the growth to happen.
Mhm.
And that's the most important, attribute that you can bring to any situation, especially any relationship. But one of the things I also want to talk about is, how did COVID affect you? So I'm going to start with you, Tamara. How did COVID affect you and your well being?
So I want to say COVID made me very lazy. um, COVID changed my life in terms of, I want to say during that time, I did find self. I did a lot of meditating. I realized, well, working in the hospital, I realized that's when I realized that I stress about too many things because people, I saw people dying left and right. And I'm like, wow, in a blink of an eye, I was watching people just go. And then it just clicked in my head. Like, I, I was like, Tamara, you have to stop stressing about little things that you have no control over. So I feel like ever since the pandemic, I have changed a lot. I feel like I have grown. I've had more time to read. I've had more time to love on myself, like I said. I have more time to get into just be around my family, be around love, transitioning into a better woman. Because a lot of times I wasn't taking accountability for the way that I acted or things that I've gone through. And I feel like COVID really opened up my eyes. Like, it takes nothing to be kind to somebody, or, something small can make their day. So I do try to move forward with that attitude now.
Okay.
So,
And Diana, how did COVID affect you?
COVID basically turned my entire life upside down. I graduated from college, and then, like I said, I started taking care of my grandparents and my mom. The pandemic, with everyone being inside, it really aged my grandparents. So they went from these really like energetic young 70-year-olds to like their health deteriorating in like almost like a matter of months. They're better now. Everything's okay. But then, all of a sudden I'm 21 years old, and when I was only responsible for myself a few months ago, now I'm responsible for household finances, car insurances, and people's medical care. And I had to basically, learn to ask for help, because I was not accustomed to doing that. And then I also had to strengthen my relationship with God. I truly think that COVID, if I could find one positive from COVID, it was that, because I had to do that to get myself through some really dark, stressful times. Like, being an adult is hard enough. and then then being a young adult is hard enough, and then being a young adult who now can't really be a young adult, I need to be an adult and take on things that people in their 50s are handling. That the pandemic made me help find myself, help strengthen my relationship with God, and I grew a whole lot. I don't say I'm a stronger person, but I don't think I'm any different, truly, because I think I have the same spirit and the same mentality. Try to just keep pushing.
Great. And Serena, how about you with COVID?
So a very similar situation with Diana. I also just graduated from college in the middle of at the start of pandemic. So we were just plucked out of our campus universities and just thrown back in our houses at what was supposed to be 2 weeks that turned into never coming back. And that being able to go back to school and having everything upended so quickly, it was very stressful. And then, I mean, I was fortunate enough. I had a couple of, I was part-time student. I had a couple classes that kept me busy, but it was very stressful. Just doing the work from home and then not seeing people. But one of the biggest things I think came out of it was that by the time I got vaccinated, was that I really wanted to go out and socialize with people, because I realized that life is so short. People were dying, a lot of people died left and right. Even people, Diana and I's age, were getting sick with COVID, getting really sick with COVID. And I realized that I need to spend more time with family and friends and going out and doing more social things, because when I was in college, I spent so much time studying and not enough time socializing. So by the time I was able to get vaccinated, I made it a priority to go out and socialize more. And even now, like when I just recently started working at the hospital right at the peak of Omicron. And again, similar situation to Tamara. You saw people come in, for family members come in to visit their families. They just got into the hospital, admitted with COVID, and then 3 days later, they were I was writing end of life. So, those people were dying and seeing a lot of death and despair in the hospitals. It can be have a lot of toll, but having some nice support group and being able to socialize and go out with people took my mind off of that. And the biggest thing I remember was that life is too short to just not go out and see people and do things that you want to do.
Okay. So you guys touched on a number of different things. Growth, spirituality, and connection with friends, and wanting to maintain an ongoing friendship and relationship. So as we think about empowering ourselves, we have to think about what we talked about when we started this: like-minded people. How do we continue to grow and connect with the proper people that we need to um, align ourselves with? Because that makes a big difference. And so if you could change anything right now in society, if you were given that one wish to change anything in society, what would that be? I'm going to start with you first, Serena.
Right now, since we have the war with Ukraine and Russia, I think that would be something that I would want to change. That is a absolutely horrific situation that is going on, to our friends out in the East. And, if I could change something, that would be to end that war right now.
Okay. Tamara.
For me, I just wish that more people would get therapy. I wish people were able to there were more therapists that people can also afford and go to therapy, because it was
Affordable therapists.
correct.
Okay.
Because it was very life-changing for me. I'm not gonna lie, I started therapy a little bit before the pandemic, and it has helped me a lot. And I just wish that it could be like a solution for a lot of people too, because I do feel like a lot of people harbor things, the stressful part of life. It's just like, for me, going to therapy is like a vacation. So I just wish, that more people were able to, like you said, get an affordable therapist, and even access to a therapist. Because a lot, when I speak to people, they always say, it's hard finding a good one, or, even one who I want, because my therapist is Black, and I wanted that because I felt like I can relate. We can relate to each other, and a lot of people have issues finding a Black therapist. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Diana?
Oh, there's so many things I want to change. There's so many. But I can only pick one.
You can pick more than one.
Okay. Definitely better access to mental health care facilities that are good and staffed with people who are empathetic and sympathetic and actually care and are competent and can do their jobs. I'd also, world peace, and end food insecurity, and solve the houseless problem, the homeless problem. I guess some people call it the houseless problem because people could have homes, but it's through greed that they don't.
Understood. I think you guys touched on a lot of important things. And I think some of the things was, yes, the inequalities that's happening within the world, which leads to some of the stress, whether it be the war, whether it be work related stress, and the need to, as Tamara, Serena, and Diana said, improve health. And that may be through requiring a therapist. And I think most Black women feel, or Black people in general, feel more comfortable with Black therapists. And Diana, you touched on affordable, right? Affordable care, affordable therapists. So, maybe something that I could help look into. I know I have a show later on in the year where I'm having a psychiatrist and a psychologist come on. It's a little bit challenging to find therapists for people to be comfortable with. So I think I have some names of some Black therapists. I will probably try and put it up in the chat, or just therapists that also are conscious of Black people and Latinos people's needs. So, and they've come by recommendations over the years. So, something that I could add to the chat as well. And, we're getting closer to the end of the show. If there is anything you could change within your community to improve healthcare, what would that be?
I think encouraging more people to seek out medical care earlier on, so prophylactically going to get care. And I think this kind of touches upon Diana's point about affordable care. But I think if people proactively see doctors before things get more seriously, it'll be better for them in the long run. Not when they're waiting to when they're high, like for example, they have super high blood pressure and it's sick in the hospital. But prophylactically going to the doctor once a year would be better than never going at all.
Tamara?
In my community, so basically access to different types of doctors, specialty doctors. A lot of us see our PCPs, but I feel like it's too broad. So a lot of people don't have access. I'm sorry, to specialty doctors, and I think that that's very important.
Understood. And Diana?
I would say two things. One is ending the stigma around mental health care, associating it more with your actual health so that people are more comfortable seeking out help when they do have that option. And then two, addressing the fact that when people receive benefits from the state, they're truly at the mercy of the state when it comes to their health care in every aspect. One day you can afford your medication and the next day you can't. You have no notice of your insurance changing. The best you can do is have your doctor, send in a note and request an alternative, and it could still be too much money for you. So I think addressing the fact that changing the fact that that people who are on public assistance of any form, they changing that system and making it less punitive and draconian and more actually helpful. It's not perfect, and it does help in some ways, but it needs a lot of work.
It's so funny because I ended up having a conversation with somebody from the hospital from community and population health. And that's one of the things I think they are really focusing on in the communities. How do we try and get that access that the people need, not only just for their health care, but also, like you're saying, Diana, for medications when things change? Because it also brings it to what Serena's saying. A lot of the times people don't want to come to the hospital because they're afraid to get that bill, right? So they rather stay. And then when they show up to a hospital or a facility, there are so many more things wrong with them. And then it's like that spiral effect. So it's, how do we get the patient or the people or our families connected early? And I think that's where our young people, our millennial generations, the people like you three, will play a major part in this, right? Tamara, your long-term goal is, public health, right? Diana, you want to do neuroscience with the psychology background, right? Serena, you want to take that biomolecular information and, do medicine, right? There's so much all three of you can do. And not that I'm challenging you, because I'm not giving you an additional stressor, because again, I know that you guys have every intention of making change. And I know I will eventually see the fruits of all of the hard work that each one of you have done. But we need to get out into our communities and share that information and the word, and have a connection and have a source. A bunch of the docs have come together, and we made a chat within, with amongst us, and we use it as a resource for referrals. Like one of the things Tamara was saying, for, do you know of a Black urologist? How about a dermatologist? How about a psychologist? And the chat may go all day long, not that we're conversating, but again, we are a cohesive little group and a family. And not only that, we tend to mentor people through, because again, not just people within our community, our patients. If we communicate and talk to our patients, or that person that you come in contact with, wherever you guys work, you will touch somebody's lives. The first person who comes in and sees you, or the person who says hello to you. By you saying just certain key words, you may not know that you've touched them in such a special way. So again, I'm hoping as we're getting closer to the end of the show, you can think about and maybe put it in a chat and share it on AAU and post it on one way you think you can continue to make a change within your community. And you guys have mentioned that. And maybe we can regroup on a later podcast and see if we can bring any of the changes by collaborating with different churches, different hospital organizations, different organizations like the Divine Nine sorority and fraternities, or the Links organization. Just a lot of different people to try and bring care and access to everybody. So before we close to the end of the show, I want to ask, I'm going to leave some time for people to post some things into the chat.
Who's
Go on.
Who's gonna be you? I can speak, or you want
Yes,
the audience?
anybody can speak.
Oh,
Well, I wanted to elaborate on what we were talking about before about the podcast and how it's dividing men and women, and in terms of the way of life, and how social media is very influential, and for these podcasts to be going around in a negative way where men are actually listening to these podcasts, and it's hard for us to create a union. I wanted to touch on that.
So
That's
Tamara, can you
Mhm.
explain a little which particular podcast are you talking about? Help us to
Right.
understand.
So there's a specific individual, Kevin Samuels. So he talks about men and women. Okay, but his narrative is more towards not degrading women, but he talks a lot about how women don't deserve X, Y, and Z, and why they don't deserve it, and he talks about a lot about like high value men, and how they should be making decisions because they have good financials. So if they have good financials, therefore they should be treating women any way they want to, because it's rare for a black man to be successful. So we have things like these that are out in the community, and I feel like that also has an influence on dating, because I'll go on a date and a man will tell me, well, on Kevin Samuel's podcast I heard there's a movement where men don't need women, because men can cook, men can clean. What do they need women for? What do they need to reproduce for? Why do they need to make a certain amount of money? Why do they need to be successful? We needed to be successful because we had to take care of home. Now we don't need to take care of home because we have other options. So
Mm.
therefore, what's the point of being in a relationship? What's the point of getting married? So I just feel like these things have plagued our community, especially our Black community of color, and it's very bad.
Understood. And I think those are some of the things with podcasts or just communication in general.
Mhm.
Everything you listen to may not always be the truth. And people have to remember you have to take things with a grain of salt,
Right.
right? And filter out the weeds and filter out the true grass.
Hmm.
That is the most important thing. But it's important that as young individuals that you understand that this negativity can affect, you know, people's futures and people's relationships. Diana and Serena, how do you feel about what Tamara spoke about?
Yeah, I mean, he's not the only black male podcast that's on. There's another one, and Diana, you might probably know who I'm talking about because you sent me the video of them a while ago. But they probably more misogynistic than Kevin Samuels, and they just completely and utterly degrade black women, particularly on their podcast, and say that, oh, we don't need them and we don't need this and stuff like that. And so I don't think that that kind of talk adds anything better to the black community besides separates us instead of trying to bring us together.
yeah, I remember sending the video. I don't remember the names of those men. I truly tried to forget them. But as to what Samara was saying, like it is. I think it is hard, especially with men like Kevin Samuels, because they like to present their misogyny and misogynoir in such a way where it seems respectful, and people will just be like, oh well, he's just saying his opinion, or oh, he's just stating facts, and it'll be facts almost always against black women, and it's even harder because Kevin Samuels is a successful black man who has made a living in part by degrading black women. So now we are presented and we see this image of, hey, if you are not a black woman, you can be successful by degrading them. So I think it's really hard to try and even fight against that, because it's like, well, capitalism is unfortunately always going to win up until something drastic happens. So I don't always know what to even do about those sort of things. I kind of just try to tune them out and, like you said, just listen to what the truth is. But at the end of the day, a lot of people they take a successful person's opinion as truth because they aspire to be like them.
Right.
Right.
And then
Right.
also they figured out they start doing the things that he talks about, and they're like, wow, I don't have, this is a better way of life for me. Or, they refer everything that they do back to him. So it's hard.
So there are two questions that just popped into the chat. One is, do you think these men belittle women due to the fact that they don't have a strong relationship with their mothers?
It's an interesting question.
I think for
And
some,
I think for some, maybe it might be the father. I think that's something that's multifaceted, and it will take a lot of effort to pinpoint and pick out. Because honestly, I don't really know why some of these men do what they do. Actually,
I think some men do this in this situation because they don't have strong relationships with their mothers. But I also think, you can have a mom and care for her sort of, enough, but misogyny is still an issue all over the world. It's going to seep into a man's life at some point, unless someone works really, really hard for it not to. And I also think that some men, they just copy what other men do. Because like I said, the peer pressure is very powerful. So I think sometimes men will just do and say what other men are doing and saying, because it's just that one step closer with that association of them becoming whatever their idea of success is. I don't even think it's that deep for some people. I think honestly, some people just talk mindlessly and do things mindlessly.
I think I have to agree with that too. I think that with the power of social media, I think the idea of spreading misogyny is a lot more prevalent now. I don't want to say a lot more prevalent, but more accessible. And so people, if they read it and they see it and they see how their friends interact with other women, and they hear how successful men interact with women, they think that that's how they should treat women. And so I think it's almost like a, perpetuating cycle of an issue that kind of plagues our community, but I think just society as a whole.
Well, ladies, we're almost coming to the end. And one of the last comments says, important conversation. Can't wait to hear more from you all in the future. So that was nice. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of All About Us Radio, where we're here to change you, change us, and change the world. So Serena, thank you for a great conversation. Tamara, thank you as well. And Diana, thank you for all being a part of this. I think this show was very special because, again, we have to always include our young people. It makes an amazing difference because you guys are our future. And it looks like we got some hand claps from a Dr. Try here, a Sudi Try. So ladies, again, you guys will make the future. You will make the difference. I'm so proud of all of you. And thank you for being part of All About Us. Until next time, we'll see you next month. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
You're listening to All About Us Radio. We're live streaming 24/7, playing old school versus new school. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at AAU Media, and visit our website, www.aaumedia.com. Call us at 1-833-369-1444, extension 1, and leave us an inspirational message or request. You're listening to All About Us Radio.